we're on.
Are we on? Hello, everybody. We are here live with you for an interesting and super exciting interview. My name is Alice Tracy. I am the owner of Whole Mother Village, and I have really kind of dedicated past couple of years to trying to connect moms with resources. So one of the people that I have met throughout the process that's been kind of amazing creating this professional community is Jen. And we're going to be kicking off the series of interviews with local professionals or inspirational figures that are going to be sharing with us either topics or insights that should help all of us moms to feel better, feel empowered, feel connected, and feel part of this amazing mommy community. We're gonna make sure we have some people hopefully joining us for questions. If you are here, please ask questions, introduce yourself, and definitely help us just kind of carry this conversation forward. So today we are going to be talking to Jen. Jen Perera is a licensed clinical social worker who specializes in perinatal mood and anxiety disorder. She is the owner of Integral Health, and we are here to chat a little bit about the 5th trimester. Before we get ahead and we talk about it, how about Jen, you just tell us a little bit about you. Hopefully more people will join us with some questions, and we'll take it afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tracy. I love Whole Mother Village and what you're doing here. It's really fabulous the way you're trying to really create a village and a community for moms. It's really what they need. So
thank you.
Thank you for creating this space.
Of course.
I was so excited when I found it earlier in the spring. So
happy to have you part of the community.
Yep. Thank you. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker, as she said, and I have a private practice. And what I've devoted my private practice and developed it around is surrounding helping moms. New moms, also helping them with their prenatal, because for many, the pregnancy isn't how they expect it to go. So I work with prenatal, postpartum, definitely work with moms as they're transitioning back into work, and also work with couples as they journey through infertility. So many couples experience that. I don't think it gets enough attention, and there's so many different forms of infertility. I think there's a lot of misconceptions around it.
Right.
There's a misconception that because you have one child that fertility is not a problem for you. And I could go on. We could do a whole live broadcast just about infertility, but that's not what we're gonna do today.
Oh yeah, we should definitely do this next topic.
Hey, we're brainstorming. Put it on the
absolutely.
Put it on the parking lot. But that's what I've devoted my practice around. I treat postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. See a lot of OCD that develops around, and for a lot of moms, it's really just it's not necessarily like a classifiable mental health disorder. For a lot of moms, it's just a hard time.
Right.
It's such a time of transition. I know for myself, as I went through graduate school for this stuff, and when I had my child, I was so woefully unprepared for any of this. I was like, whoa, they did not tell us about any of this in graduate school. They kind of glossed the surface.
Right, and you weren't even prepared. I mean, you had a little bit of a notion what's going to be.
Exactly. And so many of the colleagues that I worked with as well in the mental health field say the same thing. They're like, oh my goodness, I was just knocked out of left field with this. I was so unprepared. I did all the childbirth classes, and I did I did everything that I was supposed to do when I was pregnant. And for some even, the labor and delivery went fine, but not for all. That's not always the case. For some, it kind of starts there.
Right.
The labor and delivery doesn't go as they expect. But, for many, even if everything goes well through labor and delivery, then they get the baby home, and it's this flood of emotions.
Right.
And we're not sure what to do with it, where to turn. And even those with the most support still have the hardest time with it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's why I've built my practice around that. I work almost exclusively with parents. Fathers as well, if there's any fathers tuning in.
Oh, wonderful, yes, and that's so needed, right? It's difficult to get fathers to actually share their emotional journey.
Fathers get looked over in this regard, in our efforts to really support mom, which we have to do more of. Fathers also get overlooked in all of this. Some fathers, when they get the leave, the paternity leave, they may take a week. Right. I think that's probably the average for fathers. I don't know the actual research, but
yeah. And it's a transition for everybody, right? Like bringing home a baby is just not the journey for a mom to kind of settle in her new role, but it's also a new role for the father.
Oh yeah.
So it definitely, I think it's period of time that really deserves a lot of support, and it's wonderful that moms can get it and dads can get it anywhere. So I think we might as well kind of get to the topic. So if anybody's watching us and is there, please help us with any questions that you might have or any insight as we're just chatting away. So the topic of today's interview or discussion is the 5th trimester, return to work. So, I have to admit, I have never heard the term 5th trimester, so I'm intrigued and would love to learn more.
I actually hadn't until recently either. We decided we wanted to do this about working moms, so I wanted to take from my experiences, but I wanted to also see what was out there currently. And there's actually some pretty amazing work and research that's been done around this. There's actually an author, her name is Lauren Smith Brody, and she has a background in, I think, journalism. I don't want to misquote her background, but she's written a book. It's called The 5th Trimester, The Working Mom's Guide to Style, Sanity, and Big Success After Baby.
Hi, Megan. Thanks for joining us.
She did a lot of research. She did interviews with new mothers, and she ran the gamut of family setups in terms of heterosexual, same-sex couples, adoption, families that did infertility or had some infertility, did IVF, kind of run the gamut. She wanted to be representative of everyone. So she has some really cool findings. So maybe we can start off by talking about those a little bit, and that can kind of segue into everything that we're talking about today. So one of the things she found is that actually 25% of new moms go back to work at 2 weeks. I can't.
That is absolutely.
Yeah, because because their situation requires it. I'm sure. I don't think any mom would just
voluntarily.
Yeah. I mean, maybe
some,
but most are it's because they have to. So 2 weeks. She found the average was actually 8.5 weeks. So
well, that still is. I mean.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Basically, mom's going back for her 8-week checkup with the doctor, and then she feels like, oh, the doctor signed me off, I should go back. But she makes some really valid points, and points that I, can kind of back up as, mental health expert. Moms really aren't physically able to go back to work until 22 weeks. At 22 weeks, for any new moms out there, you hopefully by that point you feel like you can walk around without everything. Just out there,
There's something to say about the recovery, the postpartum recovery that should be, really taking place. It takes 9 months to grow a baby and to kind of get to the point where you give birth to the baby. So our bodies are not quite ready to, in 2 weeks, we don't go back, right? So it takes time, and the adjustment period physically is definitely longer than 2 weeks.
Yeah. And physically it's 22 weeks, but more emotionally it's a little bit farther behind. It's a few more weeks behind that, around 24, 25 or so. And that all makes sense though, because babies really don't start sleeping through the night solidly for 7 hours in a row until they're closer to 7 months. So think about this. The military uses sleep deprivation as a torture. It's defined as torture, right? And this is what we're putting new moms through.
Right.
The babies, they are, this is what they need, and, this is what we have to do. But, you're putting, new moms are put through, and parents, dads as well, new parents are put through sleep deprivation. They really are. And that is so much of what's going on here, and that fuels so much of what's going on emotionally.
Emotionally, absolutely. Physically as well, right?
Physically too, yeah. If you feel like you're walking around the house and you just physically don't feel well,
Right.
Yeah.
And then pair that with the fact that your body is not working right? Like it's not quite there, that the recovery after a major event like birth, whether it's natural birth, vaginal birth, or if it's a C-section, is just, another layer of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can speak to this probably better than I can as a doula. The recovery for C-section is even longer, it's really 8 weeks.
Right, yes.
So,
I mean, it's a major abdominal surgery that clearly...
Sorry about that, just wireless, we're back. If it does that again, we may have to move to a different kind of location in Whole Mother Village, but hopefully we don't have that again.
Yeah.
So,
let's hope.
You're talking about C-section recovery.
The recovery postpartum regardless, right? So you were talking about the sleep deprivation that is just such a major factor in kind of trying to deal with the postpartum and the life with the baby at home and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a major adjustment for the whole family.
Right.
There we go.
All right, let's hope that this is the last time. Otherwise, we might need to redo this at a different location, even though we're not going to have such a bad background, but that might be okay, but worth it to continue this conversation. So let's get to it.
Yeah. So inserting this new human into your family environment, it's a huge change. I talk to a lot of families about, think about when you first come together as a couple.
Maybe not.
It's playing games with us over here. It's like as unpredictable as a newborn.
This is definitely, a fun first try at a live interview. We're dealing with all different kinds of technical issues, so please be patient with us. We're trying our best to make this work. Let's hope this is not going to happen. We're going to roll with this regardless. I think that by the time we try to relocate, this is going to be kind of wild. So, even if we're stopping and going, we're going to stick where we are and keep plugging along. But.
So it's like when you move in together, start a family together, just the two of you. Think about everything that happens in that transition. You're literally inserting a new human into this family. And adding on top of that, less than ideal sleep, literally sleep deprivation. No one's firing on all cylinders. So it really is, it's a time to really, as I always like to say, be kind and be gentle with yourself.
Right. Not talking that, your priorities are no longer your priorities. Sorry guys, let's keep going.
So you're inserting this new baby into this family and to, trying to readjust. So.
Yeah. So you were telling me before this kind of the idea behind calling this fifth trimester, which I find fascinating.
So Lauren Smith Brody, who wrote this book, has this really cool idea of the fifth trimester is when the working mom is born. So we have first, second, third trimester with the baby. The idea of the fourth trimester has been out there for the longest time, which is the idea that babies are actually born 3 months before they should be, in terms of, they could really use more developmental time, so that they're born, really 3 months early. So this whole idea of the fourth trimester is that. She's this really cool idea of the fifth trimester is when the working mom is born. And the working mom is really inserted back into the workplace environment. So she's done some really cool work about also, for the moms that she interviewed, what made the transition easier for them. So I actually bought her book. It's in my mailbox hopefully today. I can't wait to read it and tell you guys more about it.
Definitely, I would love to take a peek after you do. Now, I think that, the thing is, once the baby comes, right, there's no preparing for that. We kind of have an idea, but, once you bring the baby home, your new life starts, and it's probably nothing like you have imagined ever in your life. And I think that, if you're going back to work at 2 weeks or 4 weeks or even 8 weeks, right? That's where the idea of you're finally maybe getting the hang of it. You have gotten over the most kind of stressful first moments of trying to figure out, can I actually take care of a baby? Is my baby eating enough? How do I know that I'm nourishing, that I'm here for all the baby's needs? How do I read what the baby needs, and then forget about everything else that we're dealing with in terms of our relationship and in terms of our relationship with ourselves, right? So Let's say that you're just trying to get the hang of it, right? You're kind of settling down into that kind of relationship with your baby, into the life as a mother, right? And now comes that moment where it's kind of coming to an end. Now, what, like, I mean, this must be just an like incredible bag of emotions, right, for a mom.
Yeah, it's really difficult, and one of the things that probably was really difficult for me and also for other moms is, how do you continue to maintain and grow a bond?
Hi, Stacy. Thanks for joining us, and Jamie. Nice to see you guys with us.
Is how do you grow and maintain the bond with your baby that you've had while you were on leave? How do you do that now that you're back in the workplace and you're not those working hours are not spent with your baby? So I think that's something really important to talk about, because there are some things that you can do. I like to talk about, I think it's not necessarily the quantity of time, but the quality of time that you're spending with your baby. So, and I will admit, sometimes I'm the worst with this. But how to focus in when you're spending the time with your children. And I have a young one, I have a toddler of my own, and I'm noticing with him now that as he gets older, he's responding more when my attention is split. When my attention is not fully on him, it's divided, so maybe I'm like looking at my phone, I'm trying to respond to an email or something, and he's present. Next thing I know, I'm dealing with, a tantrum on the ground. If I can put that phone away, I've been doing this for a couple months, put that phone away and instead spend the time with him, do that once he is asleep. Right. It's actually, kind of help mitigate some of those tantrums. Not all of them. Oh my God, every toddler has them. If you have a tantrum-free toddler, let me know. I want to know what you do. But and this is important to talk about because so many of our moms don't have just one. They have a 2 or a 3-year-old, and they have a 2-month-old. Right. So they're dealing with the toddler over here, and the baby here. The baby obviously has more physical needs in terms of being fed and diapers and trying to nurture sleep and all of that, but you're also fighting over here. Your toddler has many needs as well, equally. They're just different. Your toddler has more emotional needs. Your baby has more physical needs. So it's hard, but I found that the more you can kind of focus your attention, that's one way. You have maybe a couple hours every night. I get it. It's hard. But try and make them quality hours, the hours that you do have with them, and try and segregate, your work to, when the baby is, maybe asleep or something like that. And it also can help, I think, with, career satisfaction in that not only is your baby getting split attention, but your work is also getting split attention. So if you can kind of, have your set time for when you're doing work and your set time for when you're with your children, I think you can kind of have both kind of rise to excellence. So
yeah, that's certainly definitely kind of helpul. Easier said than done, as I think we all know. Trying to that's really true. But let's touch on a little bit, if we can, quickly on some of those kind of like emotions that are going through like a mom's mind, the mom that is about to get back to work. Like what is she usually dealing with mostly? I'm assuming it's kind of like probably like really a split kind of tug of different feelings, right? And then, afterwards, let's maybe just talk about like, what is kind of a remedy for that? Because we know that, many of us actually have to go to work. It's not really an option for some of us. So how do you deal with that? How do you actually end up being productive at work, when you're emotionally probably kind of exhausted and, torn apart? Yeah.
So to kind of touch on, what I think a lot of women are feeling, guilt is probably a really big one. Right. There's the guilt of, having to leave your child with someone else other than you, even if that someone else may be your family member. And then there's kind of that sense of loss in terms of, not having, like I said, the bonding time with them. So that's kind of one. It could also be guilt in terms of, for some, you really enjoy the time that you have at work. Right. So there's that mixed bag of emotions in terms of, being happy to have Monday come along.
Right.
Do
your hair.
A lot of
take a
employees
shower.
are like dreading Monday, but sometimes for the working mom, it's been a long, stressful weekend, and maybe you've had a lot of fun, but you're still so tired on Sunday evening that when the work week comes around, it's like, I can sit in one place, I can get something done, I can be productive. So some people feel guilt for that, and then there also could be the guilt of especially as you're kind of easing back into work, most of us have projects that have had to be covered by someone else. So they're picking up for that, and how do you kind of get yourself back into that? And kind of also, it's a whole other set of things, like the interactions and how you're dealing with your coworkers.
Right. I'm sure that a huge kind of topic must be for moms returning to work, must be just, like how do I kind of work and am productive when I'm not only half of my mind is kind of like on my baby clearly, but a lot of moms are breastfeeding or they're trying to maintain their breastfeeding relationship. So kind of trying to figure out like how am I going to continue feeding my baby and nourishing my baby in the best way that I can. But what do I do? Bags of frozen milk, breast pump, traveling.
It's hard. I mean, the working mom walks out, she has diaper bag, maybe if she, like a daycare or like childcare bag. She has a pumping bag. She has her lunch. She has like
cooler.
All of this. I suggest if you can, like put it right by as close to the car, if not in the car, like the night before.
Right.
But it's hard, especially moms who are breastfeeding and they're pumping and they're at work and they're trying to find the makeshift spaces. Maybe they're ideal, maybe they're not. I think companies really have good intentions. I really think that, but sometimes they just don't fully understand everything that goes in. Like maybe it takes like 10 minutes just to get up to the lactation room,
right.
And then it takes 20 minutes to half an hour to pump, and then takes another 10 to clean up, and then takes another 10 to get back. Like I think that's kind of the things that companies who are trying to do the right thing are just kind of they're not all the way there yet. Some of them are there, and that's wonderful, but they're not all there. So, but realizing that we don't breastfeed forever.
Right.
Everyone has their own preference for how long they do and everything, but it's not something that's going to be forever. And so just trying to kind of reframe that, like this is what needs to be done for now. I know moms who will like drag their laptop into the lactation room with them. So they're still working.
Right.
They're and that's the thing. Like as a new mom, you develop so many skills you don't even realize or give yourself credit for. The ability to multitask, the ability to turn on a dime, and to respond to, verbal and nonverbal cues. Like you develop so many skills you don't give yourself credit for. Like all working moms need are just a little bit of help in the beginning to get through the initial few months. And really, a lot of them can, come out of this, 3 steps ahead.
Right. I mean, the ridiculous idea that, feeding the future generation, giving them the best nutrition that they can possibly get could be an obstacle to a corporate job is just ridiculous. And, even talking about the fact that, like you said, let's not get too political, but this does not have to be such a major problem if there is maternity leave, if moms have time to be with their babies and take care of them, and then they're going to work a year later, which I think is a utopia to the thing that we can get a year maternity leave. But, it's a crazy choice to be deciding whether you want to keep nourishing your baby in the best way, keep growing healthy human beings, or, maintaining a job. I mean, that nobody should be, having to choose between those two things. Right. They are just not the same. And it's not a fair choice. I mean, that's, so there's a lot of work, I think, in the society that we need to do. But I think that the reality that women do have to maintain their jobs. They have to go back. That is especially, I think, in this area, is just reality. Yeah. Right. So,
but also, I think though the work that's being done, a lot of it's being done by working moms because they get it.
Right.
So like let's not underscore the importance that working moms have in companies, in culture, in politics, in everything. Like, we're out there.
We see it, yes.
Yep.
It's changing.
So, I mean,
it's exciting.
It's a fight to be fought. And
it works in other countries, right? So
yeah.
we know that there are other countries that are so much more mindful of what a mom needs. That mom is a valuable member of society, and that her job as a mother raising her children, yes, might interfere with her duties in her law job or whatever it is, but that's part of growing the next generation that is happy and that is
Well, there's also some research out there to indicate though that the more that you have extended leave and the more that you support moms as they transition back into work, the lower the incident of a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder is.
Right.
So some of these other countries who do have more robust leave policies have much lower incidents of perinatal mood and anxiety disorders than we do. So for those of you out there doing the work, thank you. It's so necessary.
That's true.
So
we're helping. We're along with you, hoping to kind of help this process. But if, let's say, what is your, before we finish off here, like what is kind of your message to all these moms out there that are kind of either getting ready or they know that the clock is ticking. It's only a matter of days or weeks before they have to kind of make this happen. What is going to make their transition to the 5th trimester the best? Like what would we, what can we?
There's a few things that I recommend that moms who are anticipating going back to work do. One of them is line up your childcare as early as possible. Whatever that looks like for you. There's a gamut of options, but whatever that looks like. Even try and line that up when you're still pregnant, 2nd trimester, 3rd trimester. Some people, and especially as we're here in like the metropolitan New York City area, I think it's even more important. The earlier, like I know I've heard them saying things like, I plan on getting pregnant next year, so I'm gonna put my baby on the list.
Right.
Childcare options, can be, or wait lists can be significant. So get them on as soon as possible. If you're going like a daycare center route. But there are a gamut of options. Regardless though, have a backup plan for that primary childcare option, whatever it is. If it's daycare, your child may be sick and they can't go. If it's family, your family may be sick or on vacation, what do you do then? If it's a nanny or an au pair, they may be sick or on vacation. So have that backup plan. Lots of large corporations have a backup program in place. It's a part of the benefit. Either the father or the mother or both might have it. It's usually a set number of days every year where if your primary childcare falls to the wayside, it doesn't work out, that you can have something else put in place. I know for me, like the daycare center closes for like a week, like in between certain holidays. So, what do I do then? Am I just supposed to take vacation, or what if I have a big project that has to be done then? So have a backup plan, because you may have to pull it off the shelf at a moment's notice and throw it in. Regarding like going back to work, explore what your options are. Do you have an option to go back just a few days a week and kind of ease yourself in? That has a lot of benefits to it. Start midweek if you can. That way it's sooner to the weekend. Right. That can make a big difference. The other thing, and I did this and it helped me a lot, was start your childcare, whatever it is, 1 to 2 weeks before you actually plan to go back to work. And you're gonna say, oh my gosh, like this is the prime time, like I want to spend every last minute with my baby. I think just take a week. Take it the week before. A couple of reasons. One is it'll give you a chance to run through all the logistics. It also gives your child a chance to experience the childcare and being separated from you, and you not have to worry about being pulled out of a meeting, being pulled away from a project, whatever, and have your attention divided right when you're going back to work. So if you can put your childcare in place like a week early, it can have a lot of benefits to it.
That's a great idea. Yeah, like I do a little trial run, just, it's a trial run for the baby, it's a trial run for the mom. A couple of things that kind of stand out to me is that I think in this process where, work is demanding, we come home, we want to spend with the baby. I'm assuming that trying to come up with maybe a really mindful routine where mom takes care of herself, that
Yes.
she really thinks,
oh my
right?
goodness, thank you. Why didn't I say that?
Like we have to, like we can't forget that, we have needs. And in order to be a good mom, to be a good employee, I think we need to really make sure that we're getting enough sleep, we're getting enough time to maybe take a yoga class, get involved in things that really kind of help you to kind of nourish, your body and your spirit. And
there's lots of things that you can do with your baby. So, if it's, the weekend hours when you're not working, there are lots of things that you can do with your baby. Mama baby yoga, maybe infant massage. Like, those are great ways to increase your quality bonding time with your baby when you're back to work.
Wonderful. And then I'm assuming, and this is what we are all about here, is that build your community. I think everything always feels better when you experience it with somebody else who's going through the same thing. So I always feel that even the most, dramatic experience becomes anecdotal and becomes kind of fun when, we can share it, we can talk it out, we can tell it to our friends, and the weight of the seriousness and the weight of the problem kind of becomes really lifted when somebody else says like, oh, you know what, I get it. Like this is really...
Yeah, and really finding a mom who has a child the same age as yours, like you have a 2-month-old, try and find a mom who has a 2-month-old.
Right.
Because you're really like, developmentally, you guys are right there. There's a lot of developmental differences between a 2-month-old and a 5-month-old.
Right.
So, if you can get in there and, find someone who's like right there with you, like you're probably going to become best friends with that woman because you guys relate on so many levels.
Right.
So
it's important. So, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Do you have anything else that you would like to, and you feel like it's like really something, we got to get it out there, last message? Go get the mommies.
Go strong, be well.
Yeah. This was amazing. Thank you so much, Jen, for being here with us. Absolutely. I think if you didn't catch us in the live recording, please make sure that you are still commenting and you send us your questions. We would love to continue this conversation. And I'm sure we're going to do this again because this was wonderful.
Yeah.
We have another live interview scheduled for next week. I'm going to post about it in a day or two. Most likely on Wednesday, we're going to be talking to Michal Meller, who is a Paula method teacher, and we're going to be talking about ways to have an easy and gentle birth. So don't miss on that. And thank you so much for watching, for being gentle with us, giving us the opportunity to try this for the first time. And we will be looking forward to catching you up soon. I'm going to also post Jen's information and her website so you can find her and look at all her services. All right, thank you guys.